What up guys and girls, and welcome to another solo werewolf dungeon run on Elder Scrolls Online. As always, I'm the White Lycan, and today we'll be focusing on Frostvault and the various bosses within. As always, you can find links to the various boss battles in the description below, but whilst we check out the characters' information, skills and champion points in the background, let's talk a little bit about this dungeon. Today we're running Frostvault on normal. It is by no means an easy dungeon, even on normal. There are many different challenges in there, and the dungeon actually offers some challenges which are, I would say, some of the hardest in the game to solo. In fact, because of the varying difficulty, I've chosen to display my gear before every boss battle because I've tended to change it up each time depending on the requirements of the fight. A lot of people run Frostvault quite regularly for the gear, specifically Tzogvin's warband, as it's an exceptional crit set, and I've also known Icetalker to be quite sought after for mags. Here's a list of some of the slightly dangerous heavy NPCs you'll be seeing within the dungeon. Just watch out for those heavy attacks, that's mainly it. Throughout the dungeon you'll encounter cold snap NPCs, tackle them in order and you should be perfectly fine. All in all, trash wise, there's nothing really to worry about there. And lastly, we can see the dungeon bosses. On this page, the red stripes indicate the ones I find the most difficult. And with that being said, let's get it. Our first opponent is Icestalker, and trust me when I say this guy is no joke. He's a bit of a middle finger to anybody looking to do like a solo run of this dungeon, but the way that we turn that round and point it right back at him is essentially by gearing tankier, more resistance and self-heals. Icestalker's main mechanic is effectively he'll charge right at you and smack you in the air. When he does that, he'll also stun you for around 5 seconds. During that time, he'll continue to grind a pound on you until your health reduces to usually around 15 to 20% if you're geared in the way that I've just shown you previously. So that is really the main mechanic, is surviving that heavy attack. Of course, in any normal dungeon run, somebody within the team will be expected to interrupt the boss during this kind of phase, and therefore the person that's down wouldn't suffer that amount of damage. However, we're soloing it today, so how do we survive it? Right. So, as you've just seen previously, we've geared heavy. We've got Briarheart on, we've got Troll Kings on, that's offering you some heals as well. But as a werewolf in werewolf form, what we really need to be doing in this fight is applying Claws of Life, and applying it pretty much constantly. The thing is that a boss will do this debilitating attack randomly, and so really what you're looking to do is get Claws of Life in as soon as you can in between phases, and just keep reapplying it. Now, the other added mechanic to this is that there are additional adds, and they come in every 10%. What you really want to try to be doing is you want to try to be timing those adds coming in by not tipping the boss's health over that next 10% until you're ready for it and you feel like you're in a good position to take out those adds with Claws of Life, applying that dot on them as soon as they appear. This is not always a really easy thing to keep control over. Obviously you're applying the dot to the boss to keep yourself alive, and that dot over time is going to bring the boss's health down also. So it really helps to know where the adds are coming into the arena from, and positioning yourself in that area so you can apply that dot as soon as possible. I'm not going to pretend that this was easy whatsoever. It's probably one of the hardest fights I've had with an NPC for quite a while. It really relies on you just being able to keep an eye on your health and making sure that you, before you go into that phase where he uppercuts you, that you're in control of healing yourself through that period. Really, Claws of Life is what gets you through this fight, and not much else really. You don't struggle for stamina, you don't struggle for magicka, for healing. The only other thing that you do interestingly struggle for is kind of like being able to stay in werewolf form, because a lot of it involves you just kind of sitting still. So my advice there is essentially, when the adds go down, they usually go down in front of the boss. If the adds are in front of the boss whilst he's doing an uppercut, they will get wiped out. So they'll be dead on the floor for you to be able to devour. just as you come out of that, and you really want to try and do that, because really the rest of his attacks don't, at least if you're geared in this way, they don't really do a huge amount of damage to you. But you really don't want to be dropping out of werewolf form, because you're going to be losing a lot of that resistance, and it's going to be hard to build that back up again. Very, very hard actually in this fight. It's definitely worth talking about the different kinds of ads. At 90%, you'll get these spiders coming in. At 80%, you'll get these ice wraiths coming in. The ice wraiths are definitely the most dangerous of the NPCs. And then you'll have spiders again, and ice wraiths, and so on. Out of the two, I would definitely say the ice wraiths is something which you need to take down as soon as possible. They do also like a charge attack, which can, interestingly enough, it can push you out of the way of the uppercut sometimes, but it can also stun you and put you in a situation where you'll not be able to survive the damage throughout the uppercut attack. Really, you should be able to try to either maneuver the ads into the position where they get taken out by the uppercut, or you know, applying that dot to them before you go into that stun. Which is, it's very, very tricky. It does take a bit of practice, but if you don't and you go into that stun phase, the likelihood is you're just going to wipe because you'll take too much damage to be able to survive through it. At 30%, you'll get the final wave of ads. That actually is the spiders and ice wraiths together will come in at that period of time. They're all pretty squishy, so as long as you get a claws of life on all of them, you'll be perfectly fine. But if you manage to survive that wave of ads, you're home free. You have to keep being careful to keep reapplying the claws of life, but just slowly taking them down, and there you go. That's the result. Next up, we've got Warlord Tzogvin himself. As you can see, I've made a small change to the gear that I'm wearing. I've swapped out the Fortified Brass set for a heavy set of Hunting's Rage, and I've also swapped in Selenine's instead of Troll King, just to give me that little bit more damage during the fight. As you can see, we've joined the fight quite a long way through it. That's because it was quite a long one. See, I marked this fight as a red, and I wouldn't say at all that I found this an easy ride. This is for two very specific reasons. Firstly, this is down to the attacks that Tzogvin actually does himself. They vary quite a lot, and I'll walk through them in a second. But also the ads, they can really stack up, especially the archers, and that together with the attacks that Tzogvin's doing to you can dang you fairly easily. So as you just saw there, Tzogvin was channeling fire. That's actually one of the attacks that does the least amount of damage to you. This is the one really that you need to watch out for. It's a heavy attack. It's obviously very well publicized. However, if you are surrounded by ads like I am here, and you're focusing on trying to get them down, you can essentially succumb to that heavy attack and the damage that the ads are putting on you at the same time. It's really key to focus on the ads in this battle as soon as they come in, but also to respond to the various different attack phases that Tzogvin goes through. So the second being the one that he just did there a second ago, where he leaps up into the air and he comes down with like a fire attack. That can kill you if you're standing underneath that. It can come down in any one of the four corners and sometimes in the center. Just keep moving around. Honestly, if it does get you, you're sort of unlucky. It wasn't something that I necessarily struggled with avoiding too much. He doesn't go for you specifically. I think it's this attack from the archer which I struggled with the most. When they're doing that attack, it somewhat puts a slowing effect on you. So in this situation, you can see Tzogvin's trying to wind up that one shot, and so you've got the slowing effect plus all the other damage from the other NPCs. It can really add up, and I think probably I wiped those the most. It's just a case of as soon as they come in, trying to get through that as quickly as possible. So yeah, he's doing this attack again. I mean, you can have a bit of a breather whilst he's doing this, because quite honestly, this is not really that much of a problem. Just try and do as much damage to him as you possibly can within that phase. Maybe restore your werewolf form as well. So you burn him down to around 35, like 35%. And at that point, you'll see he's switched his weapon. He now has an axe, and we have a new wave of ads in the arena as well. And his mechanic changes at that point to as you can see, this whirlwind attack, where effectively moving AoEs appear on the ground and you have to try and avoid them. They do a whack of damage if you stand within them for any period of time, and of course the slowing effect from the archers is not going to help there. Plus at this stage Tzogvin chasing after you as well, so it gets a little mental you know, in this part of the battle, but really just staying moving, keeping an eye on where your feet are, trying not to stand on any AoEs for any prolonged period of times, doing damage to the boss from ranged with a Howl of Despair if you can, and at this stage trying to avoid this attack, which is an added stun with additional lightning damage. As you can see, followed up with a heavy attack, which would probably floor you if you took too much damage. So yeah, we're just really kind of trying to burn him from a distance and not do what I just did there, which is standing in 2 AoEs at once. The other thing is they slow you, which is it makes it even more difficult to escape them once you're inside them. So just be careful there. But yeah, I'm just looking for an opportunity here to just really kind of finish him off with a nice prolonged period of DPS. Because if you've got this far, there are no more ads. You just have to kind of wait for the period of where it's doing this very large radial AoE to finish, and then be able to get in there and do as much damage as you possibly can. And down he goes. So that was quite a long fight. It could perhaps be made shorter by putting more damage gear on. However, I did find that I needed that level of resistance to just survive some of the stacking damage. Next up, we have the Vault Protector, and I've marked this one as a green fight. It's not that it's not a little tricky in places, but it's another one of those ones that if you understand the mechanics and you're working through them and you're doing them correctly, focusing on the right things, then it just all kind of seems a bit like a walk in the park. As you can see, I've kept the set on of Heavy Handing's Rage. I haven't really made any changes there. Reason being is because I think you probably need the same level of resistance in this fight. So let me just walk you through some of the mechanics. So the boss walks towards you during this period of the fight with this sort of radial area around his feet. It doesn't do all that much damage, but you don't want to stand in it for too long a period of time. You'll also pull off a heavy attack, which you're going to want to try and dodge roll. You'll do this conal AoE attack, which you just need to not stand in, and fire off lightning AoEs, which do a little bit of damage, but nothing you need to be too worried about. At a certain point in the fight, the boss will lock down like this, and you won't be able to do any damage to him anymore, and you'll have various mechanics happening within the arena. So you've got these lasers passing around the arena. The idea is that you need to line yourself up looking straight at them and then see which side the half sphere in the center actually blocks and kind of run around it. On normal, it doesn't do too much damage to you. If you stand on it for any period of time, it will kill you. Sometimes I manage to like dodge roll backwards and I'm kind of following the laser. Really what you've got to do there is just survive those amount of lasers, and as you can see the boss kind of comes out of that attack and you can damage him a little bit more. Also something to watch out for is the sort of like spheres that are passing different directions of the arena during that attack. It's quite a tight little space. If you get hit by one of those spheres, it does a stun. Like one of those guys essentially that you can see rolling along in the background. It does a stun to you, so it can lock you down, and it can mean that you take quite a lot of damage. So we're just going into another one of these phases. They can't really be avoided. Once you've found which side the laser is getting cut, you just kind of follow it around, and it's almost like you're kind of running around in a circle around. It's nothing major, and just keeping yourself healed, keeping those dots on the ads and trying to damage them down. Maybe throwing a few heavy attacks as well. And so we're just walking away from the boss, doing sort of like throwing heavy attacks and maybe some Howls of Despair every now and again, just to slowly kind of bring him down. There's a very good example of where I didn't manage to avoid that sphere, and so you can see the effect that happens. Obviously, if this happens at a really unopportune moment where the ads are on you and you're taking damage from other things, that can be a problem. You know, if you're standing in an AoE for too long and you're taking damage from the ants and the boss happens to catch you with a cone or something like that, Something else to note is you should avoid running actually directly at the boss whilst he's locked down like this. You will get stunned and you'll take a certain amount of lightning damage as well. If you get into this situation, try and dodge roll through these lasers. It doesn't seem to always work in terms of reducing damage, but sometimes it does seem to completely negate the damage altogether. So to save yourself, if you're really low on health, go ahead and do that. But honestly, you shouldn't really be getting there, especially if you're applying Force of Life to the Adzarani arena. That'll keep you nicely healed, along with Briarheart's obviously giving you that heal every now and again when you crit. So you can see we're just slowly bringing the boss down. It's not a sprint to finish. It can't be because of those interruption kind of phases where the lasers come out. So the boss is going to lock down one more time. Each time one of these phases happens, it seems like you get like an extra laser basically. So they add up as you go. So you start off with one laser to start with, and then by this final step, you're actually looking at maybe 4 or 5 of the guys. So all that's happening here really is you just have to keep an eye on your positioning. And aside from all the light shows, it really is just a case of walking around the boss in a circle in one circular direction, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. After that last laser phase, it really is just a case of taking down the ads and then just burning the boss really. Watch out for the various different radial AoEs there. Again, none really doing anything that you need to worry about too much. And so, down he goes. Honestly, a fairly easy fight. It looks much worse than it is with all the light shows going on and the close combat. Next ahead of us we have Rizzuk Bonechill. You can see here I've gone for a complete DD kind of set, Blood Moon, Selene, I'm going for Reliquins again, because this boss is really easy and he's really just a burn. And let me explain why. I think he would be like an amber battle if it weren't for this one thing. So the first time that you face him, he'll summon like an ice astronaut that will stand by him, and the ice astronaut will follow you and do a reasonable amount of damage as well. However, if you wipe like I did the first time here, the ice astronaut doesn't get back on his feet. Now I don't know if that's the bug or if that's intended maybe for an achievement. I certainly haven't got an achievement for doing it first time before on veteran. Yeah, basically because he doesn't do that, all you're left with is just the boss's damage. He doesn't do a lot of damage. The only thing that he does that you need to be aware of in the arena is he has these 2 very large AoEs. You can see one in front of you, one just to the left of you, and you really just need to not stand in them. They kill you very, very quickly if you do manage to find yourself in them, but they're very easy to avoid, and as I said, so you're just interrupting that attack he's doing there. Not that it does a lot of damage really, but this is kind of annoying. So yeah, just really kind of just DPSing him, you know, just as you would do a dummy. You really don't need to move around all that much. I mean, the only reason why I'm moving is because he's teleporting to certain locations every now and again. So again, if this boss is bugged, then if they fix the bug, it may present a slightly more challenging battle. But at the moment, it's a straight burn. And at last, we come to the final boss, the Stonekeeper. Honestly, not without some challenges, but this fight is very doable, and let me show you how. So we're looking at Troll Kings here, some Heavy Handling's Rage, just to keep that crit high, but again, we're not swapping out to anything like we had to for Icestalker, so still trying to do a level of damage, but at the same time with that resistance, because you will be taking a hell of a lot of damage during this battle. So we're going straight in on the boss and transforming to Werewolf straight away. The mechanics require you to focus on the arms first of all. You focus on both arms, you take them down, and then you can focus in on the central body. I'd advise going in for his right arm first of all. That's the one that essentially it drops like a spinning blade AoE. It can be quite nasty, so if you get rid of that one first of all. So you just saw there, after the first arm drops, you will then get a single Centurion join the arena along with a bunch of spiders, and this is essentially where the tactics come into play. So I'm doing damage to the left arm, and I'm just following it around as quickly as I can, not sprinting to use any stamina at all, and just continually damaging it. Watch out to not get too close to the center of the boss, as you will get stunned, just as you saw there. But basically, what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to keep my distance from the ads whilst damaging the boss's main core. When the other arm drops as well, you see you've got another Centurion in there with a whole bunch of other spiders. A lot of the tactics, especially if you're running this with a group, would be just to kind of kill those ads and then get back on the boss. I really didn't find I needed to. As long as I was just avoiding getting stunned too many times and getting locked down, the Centurions never really got into the position where they did this sort of heavy attack, applied the heavy attack to me to be able to wipe me out. So yeah, just constantly moving around in a clockwise or anti-clockwise kind of formation, applying Claws of Life just to keep your health topped up, and slowly burning his central core. You need to take the boss down to around 50%, and at that point, he's going to essentially reset, but you'll get rid of the ads altogether. You'll then need to make your way over to one of the green areas and use synergy to essentially turn yourself into a little mouse, and the idea is you go down inside the actual Colossus itself. Just to give you an example of what happens when you're down here, so you just charge your mouse up there and follow the glowy lines of the floor, avoiding the various different traps and things as you get there. There are two of them. There's the spinny whirly blade thing that you just have to wait for, and there's the fire corridors which you actually need to burst through. You can also heal yourself, so you need to keep your health topped up. But just following that through, you have to do it 4 times, which is a bit annoying if you're doing a solo run. And after you do, you appear back at the top, and you're straight back into combat. Well, after a second or so, you're back into combat. Notice that an added mechanic to the battle now is that you have also other spinning blades, sort of like Maelstrom Arena, to avoid them also if you can, and just keep damaging that arm, whilst obviously continually moving around the arena, avoiding taking damage from the ads sometimes. Now both arms are down, we're just nuking the central core once again, and avoiding taking damage from all of the mechanics, including the whirling blade mechanic. But very similar to, at 50%, what we were looking at trying to do. So applying Claws of Life whenever I can, because I'm taking quite a significant amount of damage at this period of time. But nothing I can't heal through with Briarheart and with Claws of Life. And just kind of doing the odd kind of attacks. I'm using quite a lot of stamina at the moment to kind of dodge roll, just when I feel like the Centurions have kind of got the edge on me there, and just maybe throwing in some heavy attacks like I'm doing here, and just continually applying Claws of Life. And damn it looks like we're going to need a mechanic, because that thing is great. So the things to remember in that boss attack is just to keep moving around in a circular formation, damaging things in the correct order, and just trying to avoid taking damage from the ads, really. Thanks once again for joining me on this journey, and subscribe. If you like the video, drop us a like, really appreciate it. I want to say a massive thank you to Shehara, who's the amazing singer here in the background. If you want to check out more of her music, the links are just below the video. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.